Hey, for those of you studying today, instead of taking the test, I thought I'd throw together one video to show you how to find the axisymmetry, the vertex, and then how to use that calculator again in case some of those calculator steps are kind of tough for you. So this should be a pretty quick video. Remember, the first thing that we're going to do is we're going to use the formula negative bx equals, I should say, x equals negative b over 2. And that's to find this axis of symmetry right here. So the first thing we're going to do, use this formula to find the axis of symmetry. To do that, we need to know what a, b, and c are. They come from our equation. Whatever's with my x squared term, in this case negative 2 is my a. This guy, my b is 4, and my c is 1. We actually don't even use the c in this, so you don't have to write it down if you don't want to, but I tend to just because it's a habit. If you take those then, so we need this negative 2 and this 4, we're going to get involved. It says negative b. Well, my b value is currently 4, so I'm going to say negative 4 on the top. If it was negative 4, it would double negative it, and we'd switch it. So it's kind of like the opposite of b. We flip that. Okay, mine's currently 4, so I made a negative 4. If it was negative 2, I would make it positive 2. That's just for the top one, for that negative b on the top. Over 2 times a. A here is negative 2. So we have negative 4 over negative 4 when I multiply those together on the bottom, or just 1. So really importantly, my axis of symmetry is the value, or the equation, the whole equation, x equals 1. I said this about 15 times a day in class. If you just write the number 1 down on this line, you're not getting better than a 2 on this test, because that's not what it is. It's a whole line, the whole vertical line right through the point 1 like this. So what that just told us is that's where our parabola is centered. Oh my goodness. And we're going to put a whole graph right on that dotted line, which means I have the x value for it. I know left and right where it is. So my vertex is always the point x comma something. And we need to figure out what goes with it, what y value goes with it. We're going to go plug that 1 into our equation at the top and figure out the y value for that. So we're going to say y equals exactly how this is, but I'm going to plug in 1. It says y equals negative 2. Anytime we plug something in, we got to use parentheses. So instead of x, I'm going to put 1. We're using these parentheses, really important. Plus 4 times 1 plus 1. Cool. You might have different numbers. Those parentheses get really important when we have negative, so make sure you have those. But the nice part is your calculator can do this whole thing. So make sure you have the calculator that I sent out downloaded. Otherwise, you're not going to be able to do any of this stuff. So we're doing negative 1. So clear out. So to do this, I'm going to go to negative. Make sure this bottom one next to the enter key on the bottom. It's so blurry. Negative on the bottom is different than the minus key that's above the plus sign. Those are really important. So this is a negative 2 parentheses 1 parentheses squared key. It's highlighted in red right now. It's kind of kitty corner to that 7 above what the word that says log. And this was plus 4, right? Plus 4 parentheses 1 and plus 4 times 1 plus 1. Cool. So plus 1. Oh. Just take a minute to double check. Does it look like your stuff? A lot of times people are just like entering things in wrong and then they don't know what they did wrong. But just go double check your thing. Mine says negative 2, 1 parentheses squared, plus 4 times 1. Great. Plus 1. Looks the same. Cool. You can hit enter and it gives you 3. So the y value of my vertex is 3 here. Great. So what I just found is that y equals 3, and that is the missing value for my vertex. My vertex is a point on the graph. This says over 1 up 3. So my vertex is right here, over 1 up 3. That's my vertex right there, one of the most important pieces of our graphs of quadratics. Now, in order to set this up, and we need to fill in this table, we know that our vertex is 1. We always put that in the middle of the table, but we need to go find the rest of the table. You could continue to go plug in more numbers. We just count on our x's up and down. So this is 1, -1, and 2, and 3. That's just counts down like a number line, but the y values all change. So we got to go figure those out. You could go plug in 0 and -1 and 2 and 3, just like we did on top with the 1. But a little easier than that, what we did in class is we plugged this into the equation here, and we said, well, maybe the graph or the graphing calculator can tell us all this work for us, so we don't have to do so much tedious work. So if you go plug it in, same thing, but instead of the ones that we put into the calculator, we're going to put the x's this time. -2x is right here. It's highlighted in red now. It's next to the green alpha key, and that says x. So I hit squared plus 4x plus 1, and that is the exact equation that they gave us. It's exactly like this, right, from the top. If you look at this top left corner, that's the equation they gave us. That's what we just plugged in. If you hit graph, it should look hopefully like this parabola, right? We have our U shape either up or down, which is great news. It looks pretty good. And that was to hit the graph button. And right above the graph button, it says table. It's a little blurry on my end, so you should be able to find it on your calculator. But if you hit this blue second button first and then hit graph, it goes to this table section. And the table section is what we want. We wanted a table anyway, right? So you can page up and down. We kind of want to center. We know our vertex was at 1, 3. It's not really centered. I like to center it a little bit more, make sure it's kind of in the middle. But this is my vertex is 1, 3 right here. And if you look around it, the ones on either side, that's 0, 1, and 2, 1. Those match. Those y values match, and that should always happen. -5 and -5. These y values match, and that should always happen. So we did find the right stuff. This is good. So we need 1s and -5. So our graph looks like this. Our table looks like this. Oops. This is 1 and 1, and this is -5 and -5. Once again, these guys always match. These guys always match, and our vertex is right in the middle, which is perfect. Cool. So go plot those. 0, 1 is over left and right. 0 up 1. 2, 1 over 1, 2 up 1. Cool. And it says -1, -5, -1, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Cool right here. And over 1, 2, 3 down -5. Cool right here. So this gives us our shape. Your lines don't have to be perfect, but make sure that you're showing that there's arrows at the end so that I know that you know that they go on forever. And also make sure that you have a U shape. It's not a V, it's a U. So it should be kind of curved up at the top. Doesn't have to be perfect, but it should be kind of close. For these last two questions then, our domain is essentially what x values left and right do we cover, and we always cover all of the x values on quadratics on these graphs because they go left and right forever. So we actually get to say all real numbers. If you want to say ARN, that's okay. If you want to use this symbol, this is a mathematical symbol for all real numbers, that works too. The range, however, that one's always pretty interesting. We always have to do something about the range. So we're talking bottom to top. What y values are we using? From the very bottom to the top, what are we using? So from the bottom here, do we start somewhere specific or is this just going down? Well, this graph is going down forever. We don't even really get a starting point in the bottom because it just keeps going down. We can't, if you picked somewhere, there's always values below it. We could always keep getting lower and lower. So we call this starting down at negative infinity. Starts on a negative infinity. We use a parenthesis on that, on infinities in here, and we're going to use a bracket on the numbers. They use different things, whether or not the graph includes them or not, but you can kind of always remember. Parentheses are for infinities, brackets are for numbers. So the question is then range, we're talking about y's, right? Up and down, from bottom to top. So what's the highest y value on this whole graph? And this one is really important because this doesn't go up to positive infinity, it stops somewhere. Where does it stop? It stops right here. This is the highest point on my graph. There is no more graph above that point, right? That blue line is the very highest thing. We have a maximum, is the word we were using in class for this. And that maximum is at what y value? Well, it is always the y value of the vertex. Our vertex is our highest or lowest point, always. And we're talking about y values. So this is the y value here. My range is from negative infinity to positive 3. Bracket around 3, parentheses around the infinity. We are done. So that should help you out as you're practicing these. Feel free to please ask questions in class or emails or whatever you need to do. but that should help kind of guide you as you're practicing some of these and preparing for your test.